Hi, Megan. This is Alka Madan, and I am from Global Women Power. And welcome to our series of Meet Our Sheroes. And briefly, I want to introduce for our audience Meet Our Sheroes is part of Global Women Power, which is a nonprofit. And it started in 2015. The whole idea of Global Women Power is to get to the empowerment of women through women's network. And so that's how we just keep on expanding our network where we can help each other and help mostly in the category of financial independence or emotional independence. So we are not touching their personal lives that much, but we just help them to become more powerful. So in that series, I welcome you, and the way we run it, most of the time I never study the biodata before I start interviewing because I want to flow with you and enjoy firsthand who are you, what you have been doing, what are you doing now, what will you do in coming years. So over to you. Please take over.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me and for setting up this incredible platform and this incredible community that we can be a part of and learn from. So my name is Meghan Freebeck. I am the founder and CEO of the nonprofit Simply the Basics. Prior to founding this organization that I can tell you a little bit more about, but prior to doing this, I have been an executive director of nonprofit organizations in homelessness and combating poverty services, as well as San Francisco Suicide Prevention and Crisis Center. And then in what feels like a lifetime ago, I was directing the Shakespeare Theater in Chicago on their communications and marketing team.
There's one Shakespeare theater in Oregon, also a very popular one.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal one. Uh, I have a master's degree in English literature, and my focus was Shakespeare. So I've continued to have a soft spot for it. I'm actually on the board of directors of the San Francisco Shakespeare Festival, so that at least in my spare time, I can keep free Shakespeare and educational Shakespeare part of my life.
Good. So you are pretty much influenced by the which side of Shakespeare?
Mm. That's my which side. I think I just loved. I grew up loving literature, studied literature. Definitely an Anglophile. Love English writing. But what I always found so great about Shakespeare is how many of our stories today still come from Shakespeare stories. How relevant they are. It's hard to think that something that's 500 years old would still be relevant, but anything from jealousy to anger to love to friendships, we still have all those same feelings. So I think it's really neat to read that and be like, yeah, I totally get that jealousy. I totally get where he's coming from. And then to have it become accessible is really important to me. I think that a challenge with theater is it doesn't feel very accessible for a lot of people, doesn't feel very equitable. So Shakespeare is something that continues to make sure there's, free Shakespeare in parks and 30-minute versions of Shakespeare in school, or maybe it's just a matter of watching the movie 10 Things I Hate About You or Romeo and Juliet with Leonardo DiCaprio, but there's a way for it to be really accessible to people. Uh, and so I've just loved that. And as I've aged and matured and grown and experienced life in different ways, it's never been lost on me that I can re-experience Shakespeare and see it in a different light, or the political climate of our country can change the way you read something like King Lear. And yeah, so I'm glad that even though it's not what I'm doing professionally anymore, I have found a way to keep it a part of my volunteer life, which I think is really important.
Wow, you're in such a unique space, huh?
Yes.
Okay, please carry on then.
Yeah, so I ended up shifting into working in at a homeless shelter in Chicago before moving to San Francisco. And once I moved to San Francisco, I'd been my background in nonprofit development and leading nonprofit organizations translated a lot to working with San Francisco Suicide Prevention and Crisis Center. And really, really loved what that organization was doing. But something that I found so challenging was we would receive about 300 phone calls from people in crisis every day. Uh, and what was very difficult for me was that I would leave my work there and feel worse walking home. Because in the city of San Francisco, there's a lot of visible homelessness, there's a lot of inequity. And, something occurred to me, which was so many of the people who reached out to our services at the crisis center, they weren't able to meet their basic needs. And that really was a big part of their challenges. It was something as simple as a single mother who would call and say, I'm working two jobs, but I still struggle to afford diapers, or make sure that my children have what they need to go to school and for them to succeed. And so when people were facing a crisis in their life, a lot of that was stemming from the fact that they didn't have this foundation of basic needs met. And so that's what ended up motivating me to found the organization Simply the Basics. It started with focusing on menstrual care. So focusing on products that anyone who menstruates might need that are hard to access. I think that providing menstrual care has become more popular, which is wonderful. There are a lot of services that do this. But what we noticed a big gap was in providing products that people really needed for dignity and choice.
Mm.
As someone who menstruates myself, I have a preference. I prefer tampons over pads. Other people might prefer menstrual cups. These are the choices that make a really, really big difference in my day. When I'm on my period and I can't choose the product that I most need, I'm going to be more uncomfortable. I'm going to be physically uncomfortable.
Mm.
Our anatomies might be different. So we really set out to say it's not just about getting people supplies, but getting them the right supplies.
Mm.
That was 2015.
Mm.
It has expanded greatly. We are now an internationally reaching hygiene bank, the only one in existence, providing all basic needs for anyone that has struggled to meet them. But we continue to always go back to that foundation where we began, which is that choice is very important. For example, I use a different type of shampoo than someone of a different ethnicity might use or different hair type might use. So we continue to make sure that people have choices in the products that they get, that they're always quality. And our mission is rooted in if we can help someone meet their basic needs, then they can focus on their greater goals like employment, education, housing, sustainability. Somebody who not only is experiencing homelessness, but somebody who just lost their job recently, somebody who's, got poor credit and, owe money for medical reasons or education reasons, are going to struggle to meet these basic needs. And if we can support that, we're giving them the opportunity, the chance to reach their greater goals. So that's definitely our mission. And we always remind ourselves to come back to that Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Let's meet our basics so that people can focus on greater goals. Yeah, so that's where I am today, is leading Simply the Basics, the organization that provides that.
So how many people are working with you?
So we have on volunteer base, we're incredibly volunteer based, we're incredibly community based. We have over 1,000 volunteers every year that make this possible. We also, one thing that is really special is we believe in working with partnerships. So the way that we've been able to expand to over 200 cities is we partner with service sites, existing service sites. So we have 200 service sites that we work with across the country and the world. But as a team, our board of directors is only 5 people. We're a staff of about to be just 3 people. So we're very scrappy. We're very small in terms of manpower, but we're mighty. We do a great deal of work just between the support of the volunteer system.
So now the cough more I try to control, it makes me cough more. Give me a break. Give me a break for 2 minutes.
Of course. Yeah, I'll take a sip of my coffee then too.
So, when you were telling about this, though it is simply basics, but it looks like a big, number of needs you take responsibility for fulfilling, isn't it?
Absolutely. So we don't, it's not up to us to define what somebody's needs are. Certainly, there are the basics that always come to mind when you think of hygiene: soap, deodorant, shampoo. But we realize that our hygiene health goes much more beyond that. For example, we want to make sure we include texture hair shampoo, contact solution. Even something as simple as just saying we provide toothpaste is not really that simple, because somebody with dentures is going to need a different toothpaste than I might use, and also that a child might use. We serve a lot of families, and a 5-year-old is going to call my Crest toothpaste probably too spicy for them. So we do provide a variety of versions of products. We also allow people to tell us what they most need for their basic hygienic health. For example, we uh, have recently received a lot of requests for laundry detergent, which is very expensive and very important, not only keeping our clothing clean, but being able to have keep our body out odor at bay, and it's expensive. So yes, we do allow people to select what they most need, what their basics are. Um, and we always kind of go back to, is this going to impact their health and their wellness so that they can focus on other goals? I recently was working with a woman at one of our partner sites. This was actually, kind of close to the beginning of when we were founded, but the story always recently comes to my mind. And I was helping her secure menstrual products for her recipients. It's a women's only shelter. And we were spending some time doing that. And I said, Susanna, how much time a week do you spend just trying to get your clients the right products and enough products? And she said she spends about 8 hours a week doing that. And I asked her, well, what's your background that you spend a whole day a week managing supplies? And she told me that her background was a doctorate degree with a focus on substance abuse. And I just thought to myself, this is so unnecessary and a poor use of your time to be sorting through menstrual products. Let our organization do that so you can focus on your clients' needs beyond that. So, for her organization, it's going to be something different that they need than the library, than another site. But it's all about saying, how are you going to better reach your goals?
I'm trying to put my head around it, because to me at present it looks like it's lots of work.
It certainly is, yeah.
Because, in case you put up a menu, okay, what do you want? Then people say, I want this, I want that.
Mm. So it is a lot of work, but we have a great system for doing it. So there's 4 different ways that you can receive hygiene products from Simply the Basics. One of them is as one of our receiving site partners, like this women's shelter or a free legal clinic, a medical clinic, a library, a low-income school. Any of these type of organizations can apply to become a receiving site. And they tell us whether or not they want hygiene kits, which is a kit with about 10 to 11 products in it. Our tote bags are mildew proof, reusable, really great supplies in there. Or they can receive items in bulk. And so they might pick, we give them basically a shopping list, for lack of a better words, a catalog, and they select the items that they most need. We want to get 500 toothpastes, deodorants, and soaps every shipment, something like that. And they can change this up every quarter. So that's how we provide them with those supplies. Another way that you can receive supplies from us is during our public markets. And these are really neat because there's a lot of choice in them, but we go directly to the community, kind of have a pop-up table of thousands of supplies. And then people can come and look at what we have and select what they need right there at the table. We just did one at the San Francisco Library and served almost 200 people there that day. And all 200 people got over 10 supplies each. So 2,000 supplies in one day went out to people in need. The third way that you can get supplies is you can visit our website, and we have what's called a hygiene locator. And you put in the items you need, your location. You can also put in if you speak a different language and you want to find a site where they speak that language, or maybe you need ADA compliancy, or maybe you want a certain service available. So you filter in all these things and it will tell you the closest organizations near you that have the supplies you need within those parameters. And then the last way that you can get supplies from us is when there's a disaster, we do respond to natural disasters. So in those systems, we work with sites where people have had to leave their home very quickly, such as in California, the fires, or in floods in Louisiana. And we provide supplies through our service partners to anywhere somebody is going to stay when they have to vacate their home quickly. So those are the ways that you can get supplies from us. The biggest way is through our receiving sites. Of course, if anyone were to reach out to me and say, gosh, I really need this antiseptic cream. It's a unique cream. It's because I have a skin condition. I'm not seeing it available anywhere because it's such a specialized product. Then we would use the monetary donations we get to get them that product.
So do you need a warehouse to store the things?
Always. We need more and more space all the time because the need is increased. We do have 2 storage facilities where we store a lot of our supplies. Oh, I'm sorry, 3 storage facilities now. We just opened up a new one because of a great influx of socks that we got. So we have 3 storage facilities where we store supplies. But we also have great relationships with wholesale companies. So often we can have the supplies go right from a wholesaler directly to the receiving site, which is my favorite way to make it work. Because then it doesn't need to land on our doorstep. We cut out any stops in the middle, and it's a lot more efficient.
So how is your typical day goes as a CEO of such an organization?
Oh gosh, that's such a good question, because they're all so different. I would say there's, as CEO, a lot of what you're doing is you're keeping the ship afloat. You are making sure that the funds are there. So there's a lot of fundraising, a lot of talking to donors, to foundation grants. We're privately funded. So it's a lot of relationships with donors that we rely on. And the need is always going to be there. So we're always needing to keep those relationships going. So I do spend a lot of time looking for foundation grants, looking for corporate sponsors, talking to donors. And then, of course, as a small organization and as the CEO, sometimes you're getting your hands dirty. Sometimes I just have to say, okay, I got to do this delivery of supplies because no one else is available. You hop in your car and you do what needs to get done. I really love working directly with our recipients. It's a really good reminder of why we're doing this, even though it's not my primary role. I have, coworkers that do that. I do need to always step back and remind myself, what is our real passion, our purpose. So I try to do that on occasion. And then I like to tell myself to always save 20% of my week for things I don't expect. So that might be, an issue that we have with a supplier. That might be a corporate, volunteer group that wants to do a last minute thing, some fire that you need to put out, some paperwork that needs to be filed. So, if I were to describe my job in a week, I would say I only try to fill 80% of it with actual tasks, because it will get filled to 110%. You just don't know what that remainder is always going to be each week.
I have a friend who is very senior in the corporate world. I asked him, what do you do? He said, I do janitorial service.
Yeah, it is a lot of cleanup, isn't it?
Yeah, he said that's what a CEO does.
Yeah, some days I feel like I'm running all over. Other days I ask myself at the end of the day, did I do anything at all but email? And that might have been the case, but that does feel like a lot of the job sometimes.
So it was completely your passion to start this?
Yeah, it definitely was. I could never say that I did this alone. I am, anytime someone wants to start a nonprofit, you do need to have a reason to start it. There has to be a need in the community that you're fulfilling. But the other thing that you need is other people to care about it, because it does rely on donations and volunteers and the community. So even if there's a great need there, you can't do that alone. And I think that it wasn't only my passion, but it was just the mere fact that we were filling a gap that wasn't being filled. I gathered 4 to 5 people that I knew professionally and personally that are brilliant in their fields. And I said, please help me with this. And we spent about 6 months researching, studying. A lot of people want to jump very quickly into their nonprofit idea, but I'd worked in enough nonprofits to know that's not enough. We needed to understand, what is the impact of hygiene inequity? What is the impact on physical health? What is being done poorly in this field? What's being done well in this field? We don't need to recreate a wheel. Let's learn from people doing it. So it wasn't just my passion, but I think it was also the information that I gathered that brought other people on. Because it's not enough for me to just say, I care about this. You also have to be able to say, and it's a fact that it's needed. So, that helped me a lot. I did have to spend some time because I was working full time elsewhere. I did this as a volunteer for the first few years. So there was a lot of tricking people into helping me out. For example, I'd invite friends over for brunch and then they'd come over with some bagels and I'd put them to work. I'd say, thanks for coming over. By the way, we're going to sort through 500 hygiene products while you're here. And, some of those people who worked on that are still volunteers and working with us to this day. So passion is what keeps me going, but it's certainly, unfortunately, it's not enough to run an organization. You also need the community to support it and care about it and be passionate about it. And it just needs to be factually impactful. I can't just go to a donor and say, you should support this because it feels really good. I have to be able to say you should support this because your donation will make this much of a measurable difference.
This journey is not new to me because there is a very famous Indian poet, and he said, when you want to do something like this, walk alone, because if you wait for other people to join and then something will start, it will never happen.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. That's a good
So,
one.
yeah, because when I started, everybody, I thought all my friends and my family will support me.
Mm-hmm.
No, they say, what is in it for me? What is in it for me? Why are you doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Business. Why you want to do this? So another thing I would like to share with you that in India suddenly woke up to the fact that there is no menstrual hygiene. And when they woke up, then they made a 3-hour movie on that, like
Mm-hmm.
how women, they're using, those all household items in those days,
Mm-hmm.
and like towels and this and that. And then as a result, a woman, they started calling this as pad woman, like, Spider-Man, like a pad woman. So then this big, generosity popped up and everybody started making pads. Even, it became a small scale industry where women are making pads sitting at home.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sharing this idea with you. You can take those things from them. That will create employment for them.
Yeah.
And they will be much cheaper.
That's phenomenal. I'd love to make sure to ensure that we have the name of the contacts that are doing that, the companies that are doing that, because we really love working with people that are solving the issue in their own ways, whether or not that's on the manufacturing end or that's on the distribution end. Any chance we have to work with individuals and support their goals is ideal. And I also love that story of the pad woman because it reminds me there's a neighborhood of San Francisco. We have a lot of services. And when we first started, I would walk around and I'd hear people would shout, oh, it's the tampon lady. No one really remembered my name, but they knew when they saw me, tampons were coming. And it's kind of fantastic when somebody sees you and recognizes, okay, this person's coming for support. But we would absolutely love to work with community groups like that and connect them, help be the connector, help be the person that says, okay, here's where you can, bring the supplies. We will help with the cost of the materials. We will help with that connection, that distribution, and making sure that, just from the beginning of putting the products together all the way to the person who's using them, that there's support in there.
Because, when people took over this cause, because it was made a movie, so everybody said, oh, I will also do this.
Mm-hmm.
And people will go reach out to each other and say, can you donate money for, these sanitary pads? So this guy who is the owner of our plaza in India, he reached out to one of us. He said, I have about 35,000 sanitary pads sitting in my office and I don't know where to distribute. Can you help me distribute them? So those
And
kind of things.
distribution, sometimes getting something from one place to another can often be the most complicated piece. And, we love that our hygiene locator helps with that a lot too.
So I will be very happy because that will support many small scale businesses in India. And then somebody can help with the shipping and all those things, some donor, and then it will come here, and it will be all very organic though.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's
Yeah.
so great. It's funny, his story reminds me of when we first began, and I didn't have any storage units. We were keeping things in my small apartment in San Francisco at the time, and we'd run out of space after a very big menstrual drive. So I started filling up my bathtub with menstrual products. And at one point I couldn't shower because I had so many menstrual products. But then my period came, and I said to my partner, I said, "Oh, I need to pick up some tampons." And he looked at me, he's like, "Really? You need to go out and pick up tampons?" I said, "Well, I can't use those. Those are the donations. Those are for me." So even though I had about 10,000 tampons in my house taking up the shower, um, but it is one of the reasons that was a lesson. It's one of the reasons why we realized supplies don't need to come to a central location before they go out to people in need. Let's just connect the supplier directly with the people in need. And that was a really big shift we made that's created a lot of efficiency. It saves a lot of time. It saves a lot of money. So I'm glad we did that. And I'm glad that my bathtub is not full of tampons anymore.
So it's like liquidation, sanitary
Yeah,
liquidation services.
exactly. Yeah.
Is there somebody closer to Fremont also?
We actually have a couple of sites in Fremont that we work with. Yeah, it's especially, even though we are nationally reaching, our headquarters is in San Francisco. We were founded in the Bay Area. So the Bay Area has a lot of the sites that we like working with, Fremont being one of them. A lot in San Francisco and Oakland, in South San Francisco, Daly City. We love expanding, but it's also we make a lot of great strong connections here in Northern California. So that's been really nice.
So
Do you
people
distribute to Tri-City food banks? They have food and sanitary supplies.
Yeah, absolutely. So we work a lot with food banks. We work a lot like a food bank, which is great. We've learned from them, but we do love to distribute. We really say that to become a receiving site of ours, one of our partners, we're not donating to you. You're our partner. You're helping us get supplies to people in need because we have that same goal for health and wellness and accessibility. Our mission statement says we are making hygiene more equitable and more accessible. So food banks are where people who are in need are going already. So let's make sure supplies are there. Additionally, we serve a lot of, more rural communities that just don't have services. So in those locations, we make connections to supply libraries and schools. Libraries are one of our great social services where it's free and it's open. And so somebody in need might be going there to use the internet, and then they can also get supplies. So the limit does not exist in terms of, how far we will go to make sure supplies are accessible to people. Even if we have to stock up, we've stocked post offices before because that was the only business in a very rural community that experienced a lot of poverty.
So volunteering and donation, I understand what you're doing. Another question is somebody wants to work for you in the organization. Do they get paid job with you?
So absolutely. So we don't have any paid openings right now, but when we do, we post them on our website and we share them on our e-newsletter and we share them on social media. So if you follow us on social media, on Instagram at Simply the Basics or Facebook at Simply the Basics, or head to our website and sign up for our newsletter, you definitely get those alerts. We also do a lot of internships. So it both paid and unpaid. So if you're looking for something that's more short term, or maybe you're, a college student, you're looking for something as part of your college hours or requisites, there's often opportunities there to join. We definitely, a big thing that I think about a lot is there's the little bit of I believe a misconception that just because you're working at a nonprofit, you shouldn't be paid. I don't believe that. I don't think it helps anyone if I can't hire the best people, for one. If I'm hiring the best people, then we're going to have a bigger impact. And also, we live in a very expensive part of the world.
Yeah.
And I need to make sure that the people that I work with are not themselves struggling to make their ends meet. So We are often slow to hire because we want to make sure that we have the funds to hire well, and we want to provide healthcare benefits. We want to make sure that people have the resources so that when they're doing their work for simply the basics, they're not themselves worried about meeting their basics. It wouldn't really be fair to our mission to say we care about meeting basic needs if our colleagues struggled. So we do think about that a lot, and we do make sure that, you know, when we are looking to bring on people in a paid role, that we are able to be competitive and get really great people, because this work is important, and we won't be able to do it well unless the team themselves feel taken care of.
Of course, a few of us, like me too, I believe that, I want to make help as a paid profession. You don't owe it to anybody, but you have chosen that this is what I want to do. I want to help people. Okay, so we'll take care of you,
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah.
And I think that's something that we, it's helping other people, but it is also strengthening our community, because when we live in a community where people have their basic needs met, when they're not struggling, the entire community is better served. When people are not finding themselves unemployed, when the employment rates are stronger, when the homelessness is reduced, when hygiene health is improved. I've been saying for years, hygiene health is public health, hygiene health is public health. And then the pandemic happened, and for the first time, people believed me. They said, oh, if someone can't wash their hands, I might get sick too. We were a very big supplier of PPE supplies, masks, gloves, sanitizer, when the pandemic began, because we had the connections already and we had the supplies already, because we'd already been providing these things. So, I often tell people, I'm like, you might not have the kindred heart that wants to, help people all the time, but your community will be stronger when organizations like ours do well. And so it serves everyone to help. Even if you don't need our hygiene supplies, your community is better.
Have you made plans for the next 5 years?
We have. We love making long-term plans. I love strategic planning, and I have a board member who's really brilliant at strategic planning. She's a consultant for nonprofits. So our biggest goal is we've developed what's called the Hygiene Bank Association, and it's a network for other hygiene providers to join on and learn tools and resources and hear from experts and apply for hygiene grants and get discounts on supplies, really just strengthening all the hygiene programs. But a big piece of it is we're sharing data. And there's never been in existence, which it's kind of absurd to think about this, but there's never been quality control standards for hygiene distribution. Now, a food bank cannot give someone expired milk, but a hygiene program has no quality standards. So we have established the very first quality control standards for hygiene distribution. Our hope is that we will have this just launched this year. So it's a big part of our plan is to strengthen and grow the memberships. And then our hope is that when all of our organizations share data, we will be able to advocate to the government to make hygiene available on social services like food stamps. Right now, hygiene is not included on food stamp benefits, and we believe it should be. So first we have to prove that it impacts someone's life, their health. And so to do that, we need enough data. And so my hope is that in the next...
WIC too. WIC. 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 Women and infant and children.
Yes, absolutely. So we're hoping that with enough of this data, in 5 years, hygiene will be something that people can access on their food stamps and their SNAP benefits and their social service benefits, and we won't be as necessary to provide it.
Nancy, do you have any question?
Who has been the biggest help for you?
The biggest help for me.
Financing, which group or individual at the biggest time of need that?
Yeah, I would say that the biggest group is Method Hygiene Products. Method is a founding partner of the Hygiene Bank Association. So they have been absolutely incredible in getting this launched off the ground. That's been our greatest, most recent corporate support. But when it comes to individuals, I really have to give a great kudos and shout out to our advisory council, which is made of people with lived experiences, women who've experienced hygiene inequity, as well as women and people who are, experts in public policy and in health and in medicine. It's just an incredible group of people and advisors that we lean on very heavily. It's all volunteer based. We only meet a few times a year in person, but it's a group of people that, because I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert in anything, but I can find the experts in things, and that's how we're able to do our work really well. So when something comes up, I look at this advisory committee and I say, okay, I'm not quite sure the answer here. Let me set up a call with this person with a background in, whatever that issue might be, and learn from them. So those would be the individuals that I'm very grateful for. A single individual, my colleague, my deputy director, Brittany Horwich, is a powerhouse when it comes to services, when it comes to compassion. And I'm very grateful to have somebody that I trust in this work and that I learn a lot from, and that really cares as much about it as I do too. So the people you surround yourself with can really make a tremendous difference.
Good.
Looking at your relaxed face, it seems like, it's a piece of cake. There's no.
I was well rested before our video call. I made sure.
But I can tell.
Likewise, I can say the same. It's 3 a.m. here.
I know. I'm so happy to see you hopped on. It's so good to see you, Nancy. Thanks for joining. And
I
even with the
was
time
excited. I
difference.
couldn't wait. I was excited.
I want to know more from you on the personal front, not for the hygienic matter, but running the organization. I think I might get some good tips from you.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, I don't think I'm being as good a CEO as you are, and maybe I have to learn from you. And
I doubt that.
and so Nancy, do connect with her, what I proposed to her for the creation of that, and then also let us know if we can do, because we have so many people, those who want to volunteer, mostly women,
That's phenomenal.
about 98% women. A few men are on board, those who feel passionate about women's issues.
Yeah.
And so we will continue going in our direction. I think we all have chosen something or the other, and only you and me can understand that, what it takes to keep it going, and what it means to us.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I think that, we spoke earlier about passion, and the passion has to be there, but the stamina does too, because not every day is going to feel passionate, and not every day is going to feel exciting or supported. There's a lot of very isolating days, a lot of hard decisions. And, it all kind of stops with you. And I think that especially, a thing that I think about with colleagues and recipients and clients and partners reliant on the organization, is it's up to me at the end of the day to make sure it keeps going. And so that can be a lot of pressure, a lot of hardship. So I do think that it can feel very lonely, as they say, lonely at the top. And I'm so grateful for community groups like what you've established, because it's so wonderful to see, wow, look at all these other women doing it. We can do this because I'm not alone in it. My program might be different than theirs, but I'm not alone in what I'm trying to do. And I just think that's such an incredible resource to have.
We are all part of the
Also, we have our anemia awareness. We can have the hygiene awareness too here.
I love that.
Thank you very much, Meghan, and thank you for all your beautiful smiles. And my cough couldn't be controlled with that though, but then we made it.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to have been invited here, and I'm very excited to keep seeing what you do and what you build and all the people that you talk to. Really appreciate being included.
Thank you so much. We'll continue our journey, but we will connect with each other too.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you so much, everyone. Love you all. Bye-bye.